Innovation leads the way, and Marshall Land Systems have their own individual next-gen deployable solution to match the current geopolitical climate, as Managing Director Gary Moynehan explains.
So we're primarily known for what we deploy in terms of deployable infrastructure. Now, deployable infrastructure, for those people who aren't familiar with it, will tend to be containerized systems that could be delivering capability to customers such as light workshops, heavy workshops, through more complicated medical systems, CT scanner systems and other things. Or in the military domain, it could include command and control units, communications, surveillance operations. So we'll tend to cover a spectrum from primarily military use, potentially through dual use or into humanitarian purposes as well. In terms of how we've been using these systems, the reality is that they've been deployed to support some of the more recent conflict territories. A number of our units are actively supporting our customers in the defence of Ukraine at this point in time. But more generally, we're seeing that some of the threat environment and how that's evolved over the last 20 years has moved away from fixed base of operations, and the importance of mobility is absolutely critical. So when you're talking about the use of deployable infrastructure, demand for these sorts of products is absolutely going through the roof at this point in time. One of the challenges that most operators will have is that in order to actually keep something mobile, you've either got to keep it permanently mounted on a vehicle which ties up that vehicle, or you've got to have support equipment available to maneuver it around. Now, that isn't a particularly effective use of manpower or resources and places a larger logistics burden. So one of the things we've been developing with our partners is the use of deployable leg systems. And what that actually allows the unit to do is take itself on and off a vehicle, allowing you to free up the use of the vehicle without actually exposing a number of the operators to threat or harm, and then reposition the asset if you need to, if it comes under an external threat. In terms of actually making the effective use of this in terms of humanitarian and other purposes, the reality is that we can use these for a multitude of different purposes. Our systems are fully modular, so to configure it for the military environment is one thing, but then you can reconfigure it almost like a Lego kit for actually use in different environments. So we see a strong demand for either humanitarian purposes or to support remote communities in the far north of Canada or other areas, where actually they need access to medical facilities, analysis laboratories or other pieces of kit which they couldn't otherwise have. So you can use one of these units to go and provide those services to the remote communities in a way that they wouldn't be able to access otherwise. One of the key challenges with any form of deployable infrastructure is how to manage the power burden that they draw, because these units do need power in order to operate. One of the things we're proud of what we've been announcing here at DSEI is essentially the new power management system that we're incorporating in the unit behind me. That incorporates an element of solar power generation, but more importantly, it's actually got power management systems and microgrid technology that allow you to shift the unit from being part of a consumer of a power budget to something that can be part of a distributed power architecture. Now, this is pretty game-breaking in terms of the industry as a whole, and it's attracted a number of the customers during the course of the last week, because they recognise how, instead of this being part of a solution to a requirement or capability that you need, that it can actually also contribute to that question about power management, how you reduce your power consumption, how you shift away from the use of fossil fuels and the logistic tails as part of that. Or, if it's humanitarian purposes, how do you actually support remote communities in that environment without needing to draw on fossil fuels to the extent that you can if they are not available? So within the power management system as a whole, it contains various different elements. One of the pieces that you can see behind me is the solar panel systems that are fitted to the outside of the unit itself, which generate power. The second part is the energy storage units, which are essentially battery units, which can contain the power either from the solar panels or other units that are generating power. We use the power management system and the microgrid technology to support that, and that will either use the power from the solar panels, charge the batteries, draw power from either an onboard generator system or a third-party system, and then it'll actively redistribute those units either within this system, supporting other systems, or potentially third-party equipment, vehicles, soldier-mounted power packs. So the product behind us is generally something that we're incredibly proud of. This will actually change the market as a whole, because it'll shift something from being a consumer of energy, but it'll bring it actually into an environment where it'll contribute in a much broader perspective to some of the challenges that our customers face in both the military environment, but also in the civil sector as well.